Hi, everyone. It's Jason Sansucci with the Do You Know Drones podcast. Today, we're going to be talking to some of my good friends at Skywatch.AI. Now, some of us think about drone insurance. It could be a confusing and scary subject. Well, the good news is that there are trusted advisors out there in this space, like my guest, that can help walk you through the process. So, without further ado, let's get into this conversation. Awesome. All right, so let's just dive right in. So with me today is Elad Shalev. Elad, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's truly my pleasure. I know that there's a lot to talk about here, so we're just going to dive right in. If you could give us just a brief intro, give the listeners just a brief intro of who you are at Skywatch.
Sure.
And maybe just a fun fact.
Okay, I do have a fun fact actually. So I'm Elad Shalev. I'm in the marketing team of Skywatch. Where I'm based in Tel Aviv. Our marketing team is in Tel Aviv, Israel. We have offices all over the states, and what I'm responsible of is basically the connection with the community and doing things like this podcast, and making sure we always know where pilots are, what's the newest things, the trends. Be always on top of things. A bit about Skywatch. So we were established at 2018, so 5 years ago already. Back in the days, drone insurance was a mess. It could have been more expensive to get drone insurance than to buy the actual drone. Traditional drone insurance companies or insurance companies, because there weren't any drone insurance companies specifically, just didn't know how to deal with this new thing. The rates were terrible. What we did is basically take tech. We were one of the first companies to use tech in order to streamline drone insurance, make it more flexible, affordable, and in the grand scheme of things, make it more accessible for drone operators, for drone pilots. What we did, the main three things we did was to use analytics, telematics, to get a better assessment of the risk, the actual risk. People were afraid of drones back then, and they basically it was people sitting and thinking like how dangerous this new thing should be, and how much should it cost to cover this crazy thing, and it was outrageous. I mean, the rates were terrible. We use tech to prove it's not as risky as people think, and not surprisingly, sometimes it's even safer than things that humans do themselves. So we were able to give more flexible plans, more affordable rates. We also used our technology to create an online platform where you can get drone insurance in a few clicks, customize your insurance policy to your own needs, which was also very important and nothing that we had in the market back then. And the third thing was to have customer service that knows drones, knows how to help them, that can actually be there 24/7, and really help them when they need and when stuff happens. So these three things basically made drone operations much easier. You were able to fly with peace of mind knowing that drone insurance is covered. So that's what we did. That's what we brought to the market. Today, I'm proud to say we grew like crazy. We were one of the leading, if not the leading company in that field in North America, also in Canada. And we even expanded our line of products to aircraft insurance. So we're developing every year, and yeah, it's amazing. It's been wild.
Wow.
And a fun fact, I'm also a lawyer. So, sorry, I carried with this one.
I bet Mama is proud.
Yeah, that's for my mother. That's nothing for me here. I'm very happy with drones, thank you. But yeah, I'm also a lawyer, and that's where the connection to insurance came from. So
nice. And did you also stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night?
And what? Where?
Sorry, really poor joke. All right. So I love stories. The story of how Skywatch came to be makes sense. It's kind of like that. My kids love that movie Robots with Robin Williams, and this great cartoon movie. And it had this character called Big Weld. And Big Weld, the whole thing was see a need, fill a need. And it's like, this is literally what Skywatch did. It's like, this was a massively confusing, frustrating place for even early, for early drone pilots. I got in this game in 2014, so it was near impossible to do anything back then, especially on the commercial side at scale that was user friendly, that didn't cost so much money, but we had to do it. So this is something. So I want to hear this story. I want to hear sort of based that this technology is sort of new, emerging, especially back in 2018. In the first couple years, or the first 2 years of Skywatch AI, what were sort of the biggest challenges that you faced in those early days?
So I think back in the days, obviously, drone insurance is not something you have to do legally in most cases. And a lot of people just didn't know. And when I say people, I mean drone operators, the pilots, but also their clients. And a lot of businesses actually scared to use drones in operations because they didn't know how to deal with this new thing. It's a bit like AI now, right? Everyone is like amazed but kind of terrified. So there was a lot of market education we needed to speak with businesses and explain to them you can work with drone pilots and we'll have their back, and instead of a person sitting on an like a helicopter with this huge camera in whatever a Hollywood scene. Now people use drones for the same thing. So we needed to educate businesses and clients. We need to educate the pilots themselves to know what's drone insurance. What you should, even if your client tells you you need to get insurance. Okay, I know that, but then what do I need to get? What shouldn't I get? I mean, I don't want to pay extra, right? So there's a lot of market education that we had to do back in the days. We had webinars all over the place. We worked with flight schools and academia and lots of partnerships on that aspect. So that's where we kind of started, and from there we evolved a lot. Yeah.
So you're saying AI insurance is coming up next?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we're Skywatch.AI. We're all about AI, and it's coming big. Autonomous drones, definitely. I mean, that's the next thing. It's already here.
I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because we are going to talk about
what
the role of autonomy is in the future of drone insurance. We're going to get there. But not quite yet. So let's what I really want to understand just a little bit, like, put your sales and marketing hat on. You always have it on. Maybe the lawyer hat off just a second. And I kind of want to hear like the pitch. Like, I want to understand, like, what are your key differentiators, your unique selling proposition that you're going to market with today that might have been different from where you started, because obviously you have to keep up with the entire market, which is vast and ranging and broad and deep. There's so many different things. So I'm curious, what is that for you?
So I'll say three things: flexibility, user experience, and having top-notch customer support. So as I said, we don't have just a random guy answering the phone when you call. We have experts, and you can check on Google. We have a perfect 5 stars review, and I mean, I'm good with saying that because I know that even if someone will listen to this podcast in a year from now, it will be the same case. We're very proud of our customer support, so we're always there. We know the newest models, and from that aspect, I know the community loves us. Flexibility, you can get insurance for the amount of time you need. So it can be by the hour, it can be by the month, it could be by the year. You can choose exactly the liability amount. You could do midterm changes. And as you know, a lot of the people in the industry have projects. They don't necessarily work with the same guy for the whole year, and they need to change in between. So why should you pay a lot of money for a huge operation when you're having this for a month or 2 months, and then after you have different projects? So this flexibility is also major, and user experience. Unlike other insurance companies, we're very different in this world. Obviously, we're all about innovation, about being quick, being efficient. We improve our service all the time. In fact, next week our portal will become even faster than it was, and it's still the fastest in the market. But we're improving ourselves even without competition. So we're always there. And I think if I need to give you the 3 main things: so flexibility, user experience, customer support.
And I'll speak from my own experience. So I am a fan. I have used Skywatch.AI many times over the last several years, and I can attest that is true. And I can also share the frustration of the folks that aren't using Skywatch.AI because I've been on that side as well. And I'll tell a story. I love stories. So the story that I could tell is there's a lot of projects, and they come up fast, and you have to be responsive as an organization to be able to secure the work. But then if you can't deliver all of the required contract sort of pre-work, if you can't get that done, including the insurance and a lot of other things that go into this, it's not just, hey, I've got a drone, let's go fly. There's so much intricacy into this, especially on the commercial side, as you get into more in the industrial and enterprise applications where the stakes are higher and the skill is higher and insurance need is higher. But what I could say is those projects come fast and furious sometimes, and I've experienced that myself. The frustration of not being able to get what I needed when I needed it, and I've actually lost projects.
Wow.
And that's frustrating because they had a specific vendor that they were working with, and like, you have to go through them. And like, well, I have my own. It's like, no, use this one. And they were just unresponsive. They didn't have the customer support. They were slow. They were expensive. And I didn't get the project because of their own vendor. Highly annoying. That will never happen again. The good news is you can also choose what clients you want to fire. Those type of clients, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to work with them anymore. I'm going to pick the ones that are going to let me do me in the way that I want to do it. So I want to tell that quick story because that's huge. It's huge to have that flexibility where I can print off immediately, add additional insured. I can print off my COI. All of those things I can do within the portal now in real time. Like, I don't need to call somebody up, but if I needed to, someone's there. That's huge. Like, and listener, I need you to understand just how massive that is, because you're not going to get that level of customer support anywhere else. There you go. There's my little ad. We can just cut that out and it become a nice little ad.
So happy to hear
So
that. Amazing.
I'm curious. So let's dive a little deeper. How does it work? So how does, because insurance is all about risk and mitigating risk for both the user, for both the pilot and the those that are being insured and those that are getting the work done. How does that risk analysis work? Like, what kind of data factors are being considered?
So everything, because we use tech to analyze risk. It's not like I won't say names, but our companies have like, well, this specific client this year had a terrible crash. We should make rates higher. Now obviously mathematically that's nonsense. It's just like one person. Why would that happen? Like that doesn't make sense. So our models take everything into account, and we monitor our data every year. Some of the main factors are obviously weather and pilot history, not just you specifically, but pilots as a whole, drone pilots, obviously. I'm talking about drone pilots. Locations, different locations have their own special factors. Where are you going? What exactly you're doing? So using all of that to analyze the risk. Actually, fun fact, something I kind of told you before we talked, we even lowered our rates this year just because we saw in our data that drone pilots are becoming more professional. We're better in what we're doing. It could be because we're just we know what to do, but also we get better models, better equipment. People are more serious. They're taking hull coverage, they're covering themselves also. So we're seeing all these trends that can imply that it's actually safer to use a drone these days. Yeah.
So I'm gonna skip a question. I want to go to this one because you teed it up so nicely. So like, the drone industry has changed. So you've lowered your rates based on a lot of different factors, but
Right.
basically it's industry maturity is sort of what it goes down to. So like, how has the drone industry changed in terms of risk since you started? So we're not gonna talk about regulations. I'm gonna take that part out for now. But let's talk about how risk has changed. You hinted at it, but let's dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So I think from back in the days, you had a lot of stupid stuff happening, right? If I can say that. Lots of
You
people
can, and
stories.
yeah, and it did
Yeah,
happened a lot.
yeah, lots of birds hitting drones. Lots of techie stuff, like a drone that is not supposed to hit the ground but hits the ground, or flyaways. Flyaways are still pretty common, but I will say that like these technical stuff that are relatively simple were more common, and some people, for example, a person that thought it's a good idea to take a picture with his drone landing on his hand. Uh, Not a good idea. You can imagine the result. So a lot of these stuff, and the industry definitely matured. People don't do these dumb stuff anymore.
Anything for the gram. Anything for
Right.
the gram, a lot.
Yeah, and technical, like these small technical stuff don't happen as much because models are better. So we're seeing like much more complicated challenges these days. We talk about autonomous drones. We talk about fleets. We talk about a lot of different drones in the air simultaneously. It may be delivery, it may be light shows, a lot of very complex things happening sometimes on the same time, and it multiplies the risks. Obviously, as an insurance company, I'm saying that. So, I mean, that's a whole different thing. That's a different challenge. Talking to the guy that whatever thought it's a good idea to hold his drone while it's flying, and talking to a guy that's flying 5 drones at the same time, and his challenge is completely different, right? So yeah, back to your question. The industry is definitely maturing, and we feel it as an insurance company.
So I want to just add on to that a little bit. So I want to dive in just a little bit. So as the complexity in the industry is increasing, so is the risk. Completely agree. I'm curious, how does Skywatch adapt to that?
Well, we're always there. We're a startup company. I didn't mention that, by the way. We're a startup company. We're a tech company at heart. We do insurance, but not because we're insurance people. We believe in innovation. That's why we love drones. That's what we do. What we do, and we're always updated. We're always trying to keep up with the market. Actually, our CEO recently, like a week ago, had a LinkedIn post about a report he read talking about autonomous drones again. No one is talking about it. You talk to a traditional insurance company, they have no idea. Our R&D team is already thinking about that and developing models that could work with that, and maybe even potentially lower the rates even more. Because if an AI, and that's the case for cars, by the way, that this report, I can send you the link after, is talking about how cars that are not being drove by human are actually safer. Specific cars, it's not the whole, not everywhere, but it will get there. We know that. And if that will be the case for drones, we should be ready. And the same case for an insurance company. I mean, we as a company should be ready and offer something that is affordable, makes sense, and yeah, we need to be adaptive. So we're definitely there.
I appreciate that insight, because I think that's a big deal. And when we, like I said, we keep hinting at autonomy, and it's like, stay tuned, listener, because it's going to be a really cool conversation, and we will link to that report in the comments in the description. So I also want to talk about misconceptions, because it can be, like I said at the beginning, it can be a confusing topic, and education is key. But there are still, I would say, some pretty common misconceptions about drone insurance. How do you define those? Or not how do you define those? What are they for you, and sort of how do you mitigate them?
Okay, so a very, very common one is people that think that if they add their drone to their home insurance, they're covered. They're not. That's not commercial insurance, okay? I know it's funny, but it's like super common. You go on the groups, you get a lot of recommendation about Skywatch, by the way, which we're very proud of. But there's always this guy saying, "Oh, you can get insurance like half the price, but just add it to something." And like, cool, but when things happen, it won't help. And that's very important to know. And it's a double risk, right? Because it's an issue with your client when he comes to you and you don't have the insurance, and it's an issue for you and for your reputation. So that's a common one. So make sure your insurance is commercial insurance for your drone operations specifically. If you don't have that, you might not be covered, or you won't be covered. So that's very important. There's a lot of people think drone insurance is very expensive or complicated. It can be something that people sometimes don't take projects because of that. It's exactly like the case you mentioned. Some people, they just call a specific company. They understand it will take them a week or more to even get a quote, which is absurd these days, and they just give up on the project, which is, doesn't make sense these days. In Skywatch, you can, in 2 minutes, you literally have your certificate in your inbox, and in 2 minutes, and done. And with your logo and everything, and additional insured and whatever you need, it's there on the spot instantly. So these are common ones. People that think drone insurance is an expensive thing. People that think that it's too complicated when it's not. It doesn't have to be. And people that just don't know they need commercial insurance. So I'll say these are 3 very common ones.
So I want to talk about something we hinted at the beginning before we hit record. I'm going to tease it now because I think this is something that is kind of cool. So how do you foresee? So are there sort of specific industries or applications that you see sort of the most growth in drone usage?
Okay, so every year we love data, and every year we have our annual report where we dive into our data and get very interesting insights. Specifically regarding your question, so something pretty surprising, we always see, every year we see it more and more, specialized, special fields becoming bigger. Like, for example, agriculture, inspection, these things grow every year, for sure. We see it all the time. But there's also some surprises every once in a while. So there's a good surprise and a bad surprise that I can share. And it's actually the first place where we share it. That's like, no one knows it yet. You'll check it online. You won't find any reports about the drone market. So it's like, you're the first one.
And exclusive.
Exclusive. It is exclusive. One thing is that we see less photography this year, specifically less photography. And it used to be a huge portion. Part of the reasons is probably the strike in Hollywood. So we see less of that. We do see more operations that involve water. So drones that need to be waterproof are becoming more and more common. Again, that's an interesting surprise. Not something you would say, you would know just by guesstimating. So these are 2 interesting trends. And as I said, agriculture, inspections, and others are growing every year. So that's something I can share. And there's a lot of other interesting things in this report, and we'll publish it soon. So
that's awesome. And when we have the link to that, we will absolutely share it, because I think it's important for people that want to stay on top of the industry, A, listen to podcasts like this, and B, that they stay on top of sort of what those trends are, whether that's going to conferences, reading reports. Everything that's data-driven is important in this, because this industry is extremely data-driven, not just in the deliverables, but everything coming in. So it's a full data-centric industry. So it's huge to be able to be propelled by data. So you're not just, in my opinion, talking hogwash or just speculating based on, what you think the industry is doing. I think reports like this are really, really important. So really appreciate you sharing that. We will absolutely get that out there as widely as possible. So let's talk about the future. So you've been around for 5 years. Let's talk about the next 5 years. What do you foresee sort of the evolution of drone risks and insurance of like evolving to in the next 5 years?
Okay, so I'll say two things. So we already said AI lots of times, right? And autonomous drones. So that's there for sure. The same industries we know already today will use autonomous drones more and more. It can be for stuff like security. By the way, you had your report about Ukraine and the use of drones. We also see more use in that field. It's obviously that's not commercial use; it's for security. But we see that these things happen more and more, and autonomous usage of drones in that field is also growing. But the same thing for commercial use in the things that we already know. But we also see new fields are being opened and drones that can be used for research and for, again, interesting things like getting really high in the sky or getting very low in the water or being able to see through things. Interesting. For example, through walls. So there's different usages of drones that will come in the future, new fields and existing fields evolving and becoming even stronger and more useful than they are today. That's how we see it. We see it as a growing industry. It's grown like crazy in the past 5 years, and it will grow much more, according to every research we see. Yeah.
And I'll highly agree with that. Okay, so we've been tiptoeing around it long enough. So I'm just gonna just cut right to the chase. So we've been to plenty of conferences where they're talking about autonomy. It's everywhere, from drone-in-a-box solutions to beyond visual line of sight to scalable operations with hundreds or thousands of drones. How is Skywatch AI preparing for that world of autonomous drones that just seems to be looming? So I got to think that you're preparing for that, because it's not just sort of like the normal growth trend. This is a little bit, in my opinion, of a paradigm shift. So how is Skywatch AI preparing for that?
Yeah, I think that we're moving more and more from becoming an insurance company that caters like a B2C company, right? Catering directly to consumer or directly to small, medium businesses. We're transforming into a B2B company, really. Drone, because of all the things you just mentioned, it's becoming basically it's less freelancers and more companies that are doing drones. And that's a completely different thing, right? To work in front of a company, like a corporate, that's a whole different thing. When you talk about insurance, you need to start thinking about different models, like umbrella kind of coverage that is more like a bit like more like a fleet insurance, but it's also not just a fleet insurance, right? Because there's different factors into it, integrated into it. Maybe in the process of getting insurance, you should ask completely different questions, right? Mentioning exactly the points you just mentioned. What are you using exactly? What's the purpose of your usage? What kind of drones are you using? What technology? These things will definitely affect the models, the cost, the rates, obviously, and also our ability to give you the best support. So when we ask you questions on the process, it's not just to give you your policy, it's to understand you as a client and how we can help you and how we can support you. So when I'm saying we're preparing our models and our portals and even our business model in a way, we're also preparing our customer support team to be able to give the support to these users. Because that was the same case 5 years ago. Traditional insurance companies didn't know how to support drone operators. They didn't know drones. They didn't know insurance, right? And we had to kind of think ahead of the time and to create this dream team that can really have the back of pilots. It's the same case these days. We do the same thing, just for the next level. So it's also on the customer support level, I'll say.
I think that's huge, because obviously customer support is massive, and without it, you just really you can't have success. You can't have repeat business. You can't have any of these things. You can't educate effectively, and you can't scale. Even not even talking about the scalability of customer support, but you can't really help an industry scale if they're not feeling supported. Like if they're just kind of out there on their own little island and it's purely transactional, that's a problem. Like there has to be an element of that, but there also has to be sort of a relational piece, an educational piece, all of those pieces that allow the industry to thrive. So that's huge. And I think that's a big deal. And as we move towards autonomy, the thing that's going to be really interesting, at least from my perspective, is there's going to be sort of new roles, new jobs, new understandings within a larger business. And it's going to be less and less, like you said, of a chuck in a truck going out with some drones and equipment, and that's their thing. It's gonna be, this is just part of a larger enterprise, and the drone, in essence, if we're successful, starts to disappear as a tool, right? It's just something that everyone now has. It's like everyone has a smartphone. We win when it's no longer the biggest, riskiest, scariest conversation out there. It's just there. So
Right.
having drone insurance that sort of also is sort of moving with that footprint is also a big deal. So it's not the biggest, loudest thing out there. We want to make it a big deal now because we want people to understand what it's about, why you need it, and why in my opinion, why Skywatch is the best. That will become less of a conversation over time because the understanding level beyond, the use cases will change. All of those things will happen as autonomy starts to grow. That's just my own personal opinion, and I think that's just how I think it. I hope that that's how that will go.
100%. 100%.
So let's get back to story time. Elad, tell me a story. So tell me sort of like just like maybe a unique story about sort of like a particular client. You don't have to name the client, but a particular client that that was covered by Skywatch. Just something that was interesting or unique about not necessarily the mishap, but like the use case or just something that's different about this that could either be in the past or something maybe future looking. Tell us a story.
Well, there's an endless amount of stories. The craziest and the most unique ones are so unique that I'm afraid that the customer it will be easy to recognize who we're talking about. So I'm trying to kind of avoid that.
I can blur your face right now if you want to be like witness protection.
Yeah. So I will say that in certain countries, like in certain states in the US, I won't say which, it's very common to get your drone shot by your neighbor. More often than you think. So that's something that happens a lot. We get these funny descriptions of the neighbor and how he's like, and like this whole story that we're just the insurance company, okay? Just tell us what happened. We'll, we have you covered. And like you get into this whole fiasco, this bastard with this, whatever. So these stories, as I said, birds are still a thing. Eagles are still a thing. They love drones for some reason. Very common. People fly into trees all the time. That's common. You can feel good about yourself if it happened to you. We have a lot of crazy stories from around the world. We do worldwide coverage. We used to offer it as an extra. Today we offer it to everyone. So if you have a policy with Skywatch, you're covered worldwide by definition. So you have all these crazy stories, drones flying into volcanoes and all these stuff happening. We even had a certain woman that had a lecture and thought it's a good idea to have a drone above her head while she was talking. It sounds very cool. She had a long hair, and that didn't work out very well. So stay safe out there. It's funny, but not necessarily when it happens, right? So like when you hear it, you're like, what? Wait, what? These things happen. So we have lots of crazy stories and a lot of incidents that just it can happen to everyone. So we got everything. Yeah.
Listener, I want you to understand that the number of drones that have crashed in my career is quite amazingly high. And that's normal. Like, I want you to understand that it's going to happen, and it does happen, and it happens all the time for reasons that you can and sometimes can't control. And, just maybe not let a drone be your hairdresser. There's a lot of things that we could do with drones. That's probably not the best.
Well, we said new fields, right? So maybe that also.
Yeah. So let's get personal. Let's get into it. What's sort of like one of the most like rewarding parts of what you specifically are doing?
Well, I'm a big believer in what we're doing. We're trying to help people and passionate people in many cases do what they love with peace of mind, and that's incredible. As I said, we didn't do it ourselves, but the industry matured during the years, and we were kind of part of it. As you said yourself, and being able to explain to businesses that they can work with drones and they can do all kind of interesting things with drones, and we got them covered. That's amazing to see. A few years later, that it's becoming more and more common, and drones do more and more stuff. And the small business, the guy that just got a drone and started to do something small became a company and doing amazing things, and growing, and we have a relationship with the customers throughout the years. And we have a lot of stories of people that had to get certificate of insurance on the spot for this like crazy specific need. We get a lot of special requests for huge events, and if we weren't there, a lot of these things would just people wouldn't get these projects, and maybe the companies would have had to use different things that are not drones that would be much more expensive. So we help things happen, and we the bottom line, we help people fly with peace of mind and enjoy what they do with peace of mind, and that's huge. And personally, I'm very proud of that. So yeah.
I love that. I think that's really great. I think you have to take pride in what you're doing. You have to have passion about what you're doing. Elad, you definitely get that passion across, and I think that's huge. That's just a kudo to you, just personally. Where can the listeners learn more about Skywatch.AI? How can they get more information, and where can they reach out if they have questions?
So definitely check our website. It's Skywatch.AI, very simple, .ai. You can check us on social media. We have a bunch of stuff there. We're going to have a report there. Lots of stuff coming like through general media. So this report will also be published by our friends. Yeah, I don't want to do any spoilers, but so that's one thing. Obviously, talk to us. Give us a call. You can call us. You can send us an email. We'll answer as quick as possible. You'll be amazed. So give it a try. We have people coming with all sorts of things, not just asking for insurance, and we're always happy to help, happy to connect. We have relationships all over the country, so sometimes people talk to us and as a partner and asking, do you know someone that can help me with X or Y? And we're like, yeah, we do. We actually do. So send us an email. I'm not a customer support guy, but I'm getting emails from them all the time, with different opportunities and stuff. So send us an email, give us a call, check us online. We're here for you.
That's awesome. So let's get into the final thoughts. So what are sort of your final thoughts for drone operators out there that are listening to this, that like when it comes to insurance, safety, risk, what are your final thoughts?
I'll say don't underestimate a good insurance. You can never know. Unfortunately, the best customers are the ones that had stuff in the past. The things happened to them, and they know how important it is. So you don't need to experience that in order to choose right and choose wise. So don't underestimate when you choose your insurance company. It's simple, it's quick, it's affordable. Get covered, fly safe, and most importantly, enjoy flying. Fly with peace of mind without caring about insurance. We want you to never need your coverage. That's our goal. No one wants to deal with insurance, right? So we're here to do it as quick and fast as possible and be there when you need us. So yeah, that's my final thoughts.
I love that. We got to work on a jingle, though. We got to work on a jingle. That's going to happen next. Look, I just want to share sort of my final thoughts on this. Like, when I think about drone insurance and I think about the entire drone industry, I view drone insurance like PPE. Like, it needs to be part of your checklist. Like you go driving in a car, if something happens, what do you need? You need your license, registration, proof of insurance. It just flows. You need to have it. I highly, highly recommend anyone that takes this industry seriously. Every drone operation, every time, with every client, it's going to elevate the industry such that it's not just, yeah, it's kind of nice to have. It can bring peace of mind. No, it's like PPE. You got to do it. Like, I want it to get to that level because I believe it's that important. Just like having your Part 107 license or whatever license that you have to operate, your certificate on you, your registration on you, and all like your recurrent training, whatever you need to work on that job.
Right.
Insurance is a piece of that. Like, so I just want to get that across to you, listener. Like, that's something that I want to make sure that you are prepared. That is the biggest thing. So I old school Eagle Scout, be prepared, kind of the Scout motto. This is huge. This is a big piece of it. And it lends itself towards professionalism. Yes, you insure hobbyists, but this industry is growing rapidly. There's ways that people are making well into six figures and more. This is a real career. We want to get that across. It's a real career. So real careers require big boy insurance. Like, you got to have it. So I just want to leave that with you, listener. That's a huge thing for us. So this, like, obviously this is sort of sounded like a big, long advertisement for Skywatch. And yeah, sure, it is. But that being said, drone insurance is a big deal. So wherever you get it, make sure you have it. Skywatch just happens to be the best. And Elad, man, thank you so much for joining me on the show. This has been eye-opening, insightful, and entertaining.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to the Do You Know Drones podcast. My name is Jason, and we will catch you next time.